Brazilian President Luis Inácio da Silva departs for China to enhance bilateral cooperation ahead of BRICS group. UK parliamentarians wrote on Tuesday to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland requesting the cessation of the extradition process against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Israeli occupation army soldiers claim to have killed 2 Palestinians during an operation near the occupied West Bank settlement of El Moreh near Nablus. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Tuesday, the Brazilian President Luis Inácio da Silva departs to China to pay an official visit to the Asian giant. The head of state acknowledged that it will be a busy trip and ratified his desire to strengthen the political and commercial relationship between both powers. Lula's visit comes as BRICS countries prepare for their 15th summit to be held in South Africa in August, with China and Brazil as 2 of the main economies in the group. A peaceful resolution to the Ukrainian conflict will also be a paramount topic during the bilateral talks. Lula is accompanied by a large delegation of ministers who are also attending the inauguration of former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff as head of the BRICS Development Bank. Brazilian President Luis Inácio da Silva is flying to China today. In Brasilia, correspondent Brian Meir has more.
President Lula will be joined by 40 government officials on a diplomatic visit to China this week to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. On the table are at least 20 bilateral trade agreements.
Everyone in Brazil knows that commercial relations between Brazil and China were greatly damaged by Jair Bolsonaro's negative diplomacy. Lula is trying to rebuild these bridges and also take advantage of the political conflict between the U.S. and China, since Brazil has benefited in the past from their conflicts.
One of the deals that appears to be under negotiation would involve a Chinese takeover of 5 Ford manufacturing plants that were abandoned in 2021 when the company terminated over 100 years of operations in Brazil.
Automobile plants always pay good wages for their workers with the best social programs, so the nationality doesn't matter to us. What's important is to come here and give jobs and income to the workers. If Ford doesn't want to invest in Brazil anymore, we welcome China and any other country that wants to invest.
Lula will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday. Brian Meir, teleSUR, Brasilia.
The International Monetary Fund forecasts that the economy of Latin America and the Caribbean will grow 1.6% in 2023, putting Venezuela as the country in the region with the most favorable outlook. In its latest World Economic Outlook entitled A Rocky Recovery and released on Tuesday, the International Monetary Fund announced that Latin America's economy will grow up to 1.6% this year, just 0.2 points below the projection made in January, and up to 2.2% in 2024. In this sense, Venezuela is the country in Latin America and the Caribbean region with the most promising economic outlook according to the IMF. The organism expects the Bolivarian Republic to see an expansion of up to 5% this year and up to 4.5% in 2024. Meanwhile, the IMF's World Economic Outlook further added that Brazil could reach an expansion of 0.9% in 2023 and up to 2% in 2024. The fund also anticipates a slight improvement of 0.1 percentage points in Mexico's economic growth this year, which would reach 1.8% while decreasing to 1.6% next year. Other countries with slower growth are Ecuador with 2.9% in 2023 and 2.8% in 2024, followed by Bolivia with 1.8% and Paraguay and Uruguay with 4.5% and 2% respectively. In Mexico, the Federal Commission for Protection Against Health Risks and the National Council for Science and Technology announced the creation of a working group to detect the presence of genetically modified corn in traditional Mexican tortillas. Both institutions will evaluate the risk of the use and consumption of transgenic corn, the repercussions of its use associated with glyphosate, and its possible impact on human health. The measure takes place in the midst of a trade dispute with the U.S. Last February, the Mexican government issued a decree allowing the importation of modified corn only for animal feed and industrial processes. Washington, for its part, claims that this decision lacks scientific backing and requested formal consultations with Mexico under the Free Trade Agreement. In the United States, the Democratic Party will hold its 2024 National Convention in the city of Chicago ahead of next year's U.S. presidential election. The decision will place the ruling party and President Joe Biden in the heart of a disputed region that has been crucial in recent electoral cycles. Chicago, one of the largest cities in the country and the largest in Illinois, a state in the Midwest, was competing for the venue with several finalists, including New York and Atlanta. For its part, the Republican Party will hold its national convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, also in the Midwest. The conventions of the two parties that alternate the White House every 4 years culminate with the formal nomination of their presidential candidate for the elections. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. UK parliamentarians wrote on Tuesday to US Attorney General Merrick Garland requesting the cessation of the extradition process against the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. The request of the legislators comes on the 4th anniversary of the imprisonment of the 51-year-old Australian journalist in the European nation, and also demands the possibility for the communicator to return home. British representatives of at least 6 parties recalled that Assange disseminated information with evidence related to crimes against humanity, corruption and human rights abuses committed by Washington in Afghanistan and Iraq. The journalist pending extradition to the northern country faces 18 crimes of espionage and computer intrusion and remains since April 11, 2019 in Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison, southeast of London, after Ecuador withdrew his political asylum. On Tuesday, rescue workers continued their search efforts in the French city of Marseille after Sunday's building collapse. Local prosecutor Dominique Laurent said a probe on the cause of the tragedy is ongoing and that there is real danger regarding the stability of an adjacent building.
We're working on the hypothesis of a gas explosion. We had already talked about it. What we know is that in this building, which has a ground floor and 3 upper floors, only the ground floor and the first floor were equipped with gas. The search efforts are becoming particularly dangerous. The latest information we have from our colleague who is on site is that they are still searching through the rubble by hand, because there is a real danger to the stability of the building at number 19.
On Tuesday, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan condemned the global imperialists as he unveiled his party's program for next month's parliamentary and presidential elections to be held on May 14th. Erdogan formally announced the platform of his ruling Justice and Development Party ahead of May 14th polls. In his speech, he explicitly condemned global imperialists and played up his country's might. He also openly embraced his party's socially conservative traditions and appealed to the Muslim world at large. According to polls, Erdogan and opposition candidate Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu will go to a runoff on May 28th. However, May 14th will definitely determine whether Erdogan and the AKP are able to maintain control of parliament through an alliance with a far-right group.
As Turkey, we will first stand on our own feet with our infrastructure, production, security, diplomacy, and everything. Only after we achieve this can we hold the hands that reach out to us and accept the help of those who reach out to us, because this ancient geography which we have made our homeland with our blood, our lives, and our sweat is the land that the whole world covets today, as it has been for thousands of years. In this critical period, when global balances are being reestablished, it is very valuable to have a cadre with experience and influence of the AK party at the steering wheel of the country. While the world is constantly seeking direction with new challenge, Turkey has the chance to get one step ahead of everyone else, thanks to the AK party's institutional experience and our political leadership.
On Tuesday, Russian authorities said that the Kamchatka Peninsula in the far east of the country remains on red alert due to the eruption of the Shibveluk volcano. The volcano erupted on Tuesday, expelling a dense column of ash that reached a height of 20 kilometers, causing the worst ashfall in 60 years. According to Russian specialist Alexei Ozarov, the last time a significant amount of ash fell was in 1964. The emergency department confirms that all roads and educational institutions have been closed and masks have been distributed to residents. The Kamchatka Peninsula, which extends into the Pacific Ocean about 6,600 kilometers east of Moscow, is one of the world's most concentrated areas of geothermal activity, with about 30 active volcanoes. And the Shibveluch's eruption spewed a vast cloud of ash far up into the sky and blanketing villages with grey volcanic dust, triggering an aviation warning around the country's far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula. Lava flows and melting snow prompted a warning of mud flows, while villages were covered with grey ash as deep as 8.5 centimeters, the deepest in 60 years. According to the Kamchatka branch of the National Geophysical Survey, the ash reached 20 kilometers high, moving westward. However, it forecasts the volcano could enter a calm phase now. Shibveluch, one of the Kamchatka's largest and most active volcanoes, has had about 60 substantial eruptions in 10,000 years, with the previous large one in 2007. In southern Israel, local authorities reported 2 people missing on Tuesday after heavy rains flooded the southern region of the country. The official report confirmed that heavy rains are flooding southern Israel, particularly affecting valleys in several locations in the country, while 2 civilians remain missing. Heavy rains and strong winds since Monday caused rivers to swell near 2 key north-south highways, while several roads were blocked near the Red Sea resort of Eilat. Rescue forces also assured that at least 60 people have been rescued thanks to research. Eilat Mayor Eli Lankari announced on Tuesday that a sports hall will be open as an additional shelter intended as an overnight stay for vacationers unable to leave the city due to flooding. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy a Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back From the South. On Tuesday in Palestine, Israeli occupation army soldiers claimed to have killed 2 Palestinians during an operation near the occupied West Bank settlement of Elon Moreh near Nablus. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant confirmed the murders and stated the troops were allegedly preventing an attack near Elon Moreh, an illegal Jewish settlement in the West Bank. Violence has escalated in the region over the past week as the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, Jewish Passover and Christian Easter coincided. So far in 2023, the Israeli occupation violence has claimed the lives of at least 96 Palestinians. Currently, more than 600,000 Israeli settlers in dozens of illegal settlements, which were established after Israel occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem in 1967. On Monday, a general in Iran's Revolutionary Guard said Israel's membership in the United Nations should be reevaluated, taking into account its violent incursions.
The most violation of the UN resolution is the Zionist regime. This regime is an outlaw and defiant among more than 200 members of the UN. The Zionists who are fake and illegally joined the body have the most violation of resolution passed by various parts of the UN this year. It is a serious demand that the UN decides to make a major decision to sack this fake regime to preserve its own dignity and the dignity of member countries.
On Tuesday in Myanmar, about 100 people were killed after a military air attack against allegedly dissident groups, which took place as residents gathered for the inauguration of an administrative office. According to an official spokesperson, forces led by the country's ruling military junta reportedly carried out an airstrike against the group as it was opening one of the offices in the town of Pasigi, known to be a bastion of opposition to the coup carried out 2 years ago. The government spokesperson estimated the number of dead around 50 people. However, non-governmental organizations raised the death toll to close to 100. On February 1, 2021, the military overthrew the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, prompting peaceful protests that security forces suppressed, with violence that has since escalated and that experts from the United Nations and other agencies have called a civil war. Witnesses have stated that Tuesday's attacks was one of the worst since the military seized control of the country. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres arrived in Somalia on Tuesday as part of his second official work visit, where he called for massive international support for the Horn of African country, which is battling a devastating drought and an Islamist insurgency. Guterres described his trip as one of solidarity and stressed that the purpose was to sound the alarm about the need for international support for this nation. Guterres emphasized that nearly 5 million people suffer high levels of acute food insecurity in Somalia and that the UN has launched a $2.6 billion humanitarian aid appeal. However, he acknowledged that it is currently only 15% funded. 5 consecutive failed rainy seasons in parts of Somalia as well as Kenya and Ethiopia have led to the worst drought in 4 decades, wiping out livestock and crops and forcing at least 1.7 million people to flee their homes in search of food and water. During his visit, the Secretary General of the United Nations also highlighted that while Somalia barely contributes to the emissions that cause climate change, Somalis continue to be its biggest victims. In this context, he called for massive international support.
And I'm also here to ring the alarm on the need of massive international support. Massive international support because of the humanitarian difficulties the country is facing, massive humanitarian support in relation to the build-up of a security capacity in Somalia, and massive humanitarian support in stabilization and development of the country.
2 aid workers with the humanitarian group Catholic Relief Services have been killed in Ethiopia's Amara region. According to Semere Sudi, CRS country's representative in Ethiopia, said in the statements that Shul Tongjik, a security manager, and Amare Kindeya, a driver, were shot and killed in a vehicle as they were returning to the capital Addis Ababa from an assignment. The Amara region has witnessed huge protests in the last 5 days against government plans to dissolve a regional force that would be integrated into the national army or police. In this sense, politicians and activists have condemned the government order, saying disbanding Amara special forces would leave the region vulnerable to attacks by neighboring regions, including Tigray. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.